overtime drill. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. It's always good to get as many situations as you can. Our guys really respond and play with a lot of, it's a good way to end practice. Obviously you've been out there for 2 hours, but you get them to kind of get fired up, and I thought they did a nice job. First defense did a really good job against first offense to shut them down. So, we don't script it in terms of, you'd like to try to get to 2 or 3, but this one ended after the first one. Second offense went down and scored, and then the first offense got shut down, and that's the way it is. So, but it's situation. It's stuff for us we can teach off the tape. So,
should maybe not talked about that much, but how important is it to have your punter kicker back this season?
That's integral, Gary, and as we talked about earlier too. Not only those two, plus both our short snapper and our long snapper. So, obviously we lost some talented guys in the protection phase of the punt, but to know that your punter's back and the long snapper's back, and then that your short snapper and your holder in Jackson and your field goal kicker is back is one of the bonuses. We are a young team, but that phase we feel pretty good about.
Week 3, how's everybody holding up? Particularly, what's the learning curve for the freshmen like as they go into the third week of?
You know what? And I'm probably surprising that they've been really, really good. Usually at times, when you script, you're running everything with the 1s and the 2s, and then the 3s you try to dummy down a little bit on both sides of the ball so that they can get lined up. But this group has done a really good job of handling what we're doing, and they're running a lot of things, both offensively and defensively. So I think it's a credit to those young kids. They're, the group we brought in really loves football. They study it a lot. Obviously we're not in school right now, so their opportunities are to be here and to learn from the tape and to study when they get a chance to go home. But I think the young guys have done a really nice job of picking things up so far. So,
do you have any specific impressions yet of Koa Kai? He brings?
Koa, I think all those young guys in the D-line will probably benefit from a year in the weight room. But both him and Sam, they're kind of their tenacity and how they kind of get after it, and their effort. I think they're doing a really, really nice job. So both those guys, I think, are going to be really good players here.
David Paulson, I talked to him earlier, and he said leadership is one of the things he was working on as a senior. But being vocal isn't his strength, but he's trying to do more of that. Are you seeing that on the field?
I am. And I don't think you have to be vocal in terms of being a yeller or a screamer, but I think you've got to be an effective communicator. And David, has a way. He's one of those guys that he doesn't say a whole heck of a lot, but when he says it, it really means a lot. He leads, obviously, by just his actions in terms of how he represents us both on the field, but really off the field. And, he's already graduated. He graduated with about a 3.5. He's been in grad school. I think he's got 9 or 10 or 13. I don't even know the number, but it's way up there for semesters over 3.0. So David's everything you want in a football player, and he's got a young group over there at tight end. So they're learning from him, and I got no one I'd rather have learn from than David. So.
How's Dior been doing 3 days as a wide receiver?
Dior's done a nice job picking it up. I think at times, because he's such a competitor, he gets frustrated a little bit. And I told him if our offense was easy enough to pick up in 3 days, and we'd probably get fired as coaches. So, it's going to take a little bit of a learning curve for him, but he's got an understanding. He's got a football mind. He's catching the ball better. But now I think he understands what he's supposed to do, but it's in the details of exactly how deep is that route, what's my footwork, and some of those things. But, the one thing I love about Dior, he's a competitor, and he's he's really willing in terms of trying to learn, and he wants to do whatever he can to help us. So.
It looks like he's going to stay there?
I don't know. We'll see. I think that's the one thing about him is that it just gives us some more flexibility. Some guys go and stay, and other guys go and come back. It really depends. If we were to incur a couple injuries on defense, I'd have no problem with putting Dior back. So some guys come in and have to bounce around. Kenyon is a kid who bounced around. Dion's a kid who bounced around. Jeff Mayle's a kid who bounced around, and almost all those kids where they eventually ended up, it was the best position for them. So.
Coach, what have you seen out of JC transfer Rasan Vaughn?
Rasan's competing out there. Again, he's a young kid, so at times there's some mental breaks, but that's to be expected. He was banged up a little bit, but he's been back practicing full for the last 4 or 5 days, and so he's competing and learning. But the biggest thing that happens with our receivers is just fatigue at times, because we run so many plays in practice, and practice is such a high tempo. If you're not used to that, it's difficult. And he wasn't here in the summer, so he didn't get a chance to work out with Rad. But I thought he's picked things up pretty good. He was coached really, really well at the College of San Mateo, so he's got a good knowledge base coming in here. But it's a matter of him processing, this is what it was called here, this is what it's called here. So there's still that little kind of gap of, all right, I got it. But I think he's doing a really nice job and pushing to see if he can get in the rotation and wide out.
You mentioned a media day that 2 weeks into every fall camp, there's always a guy that people aren't thinking about, the kind of surprises and steps out? Has there been that guy after 2 weeks here?
There's been a couple, you know, and I'll reserve judgment until Thursday because that'll be our next real big test, and then after that, you know, that can kind of confirm it because there's been days where kids have flashed and you're like, wow, and then the next day they kind of disappear. But to me, it's who's been consistently on top of their game, and so there's been a couple guys that we've been really surprised with, and more than a couple guys, and so hopefully they can continue it. And really, when you get to 2 weeks in, it kind of separates it because the newness is worn off. You know, when it's really a Groundhog Day type mentality because it's the same thing over and over and over again. But can you instead of trying to survive it, or can you prevail over it? And that's what we're trying to get out of our guys. And I think for the most part, they're doing that. So.
Coach, did you give Josh Caduce some work at defensive end today?
Josh has got a ton of work all over. We got nickel packages where those guys go around. Sometimes they rush, sometimes they drop it. That's been part of our package for the last 3 years. So, you know, when we do some things and bring in a couple extra DBs, some of those linebackers drop down to play defensive line. So, you know, we may only have 2 D linemen per se in the game, but when you got versatile guys like Josh and Paseco, Dion Jordan, you know, those type of guys, it's something that Nick's always had in his package. So.
From week 1 to week 3, what's your progress report from how the team started in week 1 to where you are now?
I think they've been consistent, and that's the one thing that I like about this group. You know, it's not like we started off not very good and then we started to build, or it's not like we came out with gangbusters because it was new and then kind of tailed off. I think they've really been consistent in their approach, which is what we were looking for as a coaching staff. So.
I think I know the answer to this, but did you keep track of the Jordan Jefferson situation? Have you even looked at that, heard about that?
We've seen it, but I don't. It really has no effect on us. So, you know, we're trying to finish this week before we even start to talk about LSU. So.
What's the situation at tight end with White being out?
Excuse me?
The situation at tight end with White being out, is there a concern there?
I mean, there's nothing I can do about it. I mean, I can go in and stay at a Holiday Inn Express and see if I can figure it out, but I mean, we'll just go with what we got. So, you know, and we'll figure that out. And there's no reason for us to talk about it because we don't have a game till the following Saturday. So we can say, okay, you know, we got David, and then this guy's got to be the guy, and then he gets hurt in practice tomorrow, and then we got to reassess it. So, again, we haven't done anything. We're getting everybody 1,000,000 reps. We did bring Nick Musgrove over as a safety, you know, just because we didn't have enough numbers there. But we'll just keep repping those guys, and then we'll try to get a little bit more solid in terms of what our rotation will be after Thursdays. So that's kind of where we are with it right now.
You talked about being faster this year than you have in the past. Are you getting to that point that you're going to be faster this year?
We're trying to. You know, I think some of our players just have it's more of a general knowledge of our communication system. So that's still always a work in progress, but that's always a goal of ours.
Getting a better look at the depth chart now, as you've looked at a lot of film, is it kind of coming together?
Well, we haven't really talked about it. I'm sure it's kind of fallen into place, but really the big day for us will be after Thursday. We make a final assessment and then get ready, because after Thursday, then we start our preparation for LSU, and then we need to kind of have a rotation in place at that point in time. So, but there are some spots that are, you know, kind of crystallized. There's some other spots where you're just like, wow, that's going to be an interesting battle these last couple of days. So we'll see how that shakes itself out.
What are those battles?
What are those? There's a battle for which coach is going to get in the shower first. There's a battle for our kids in the dining hall. There's a lot of battles, so there's too many to go into. So.
Speaking of battle, it looks like Coach Osborne battling an ankle.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to us. I tell you what, he did not wear red then because he was full go in practice. It slowed him down a little bit, but as you saw in some of those special teams periods, he was still fired up. So I don't know the exact. I did not get a chance to talk to Kevin Style, our athletic trainer, to find out that one because I didn't see his name on the report. So maybe I'll get that one tomorrow morning.
Day to day, is that accurate for Coach Osborne?
I don't, because he's out. So I don't even know if he would list him day to day. I think he's in. He just you may have to, you know, kind of cover him a little bit more heavily to the left, but I think he's good.
Are his special team sessions as entertaining for you as they are for us?
Oz is the best.
Bellinger.
I would love to see Oz like on caffeine or something, because that would be a great battle. Is if John Neal and Tom Osborne down a couple Red Bulls and then go out and coach, because I don't know if anybody could handle that. So it'll be entertaining. We good, guys?
Good.
Okay.
Thank you, Coach.